In 2025, Ibrahim Traore, the world's youngest president at 36, stunned global leaders by receiving thunderous applause at a summit of African heads of state. But behind the cheers lies an explosive truth. This former military captain seized power in 2 coups, nationalized Burkina Faso's gold mines, and kicked out French troops to ally with Russian mercenaries. Can his radical reforms save a nation drowning in terrorism and poverty, or is he leading it to collapse? Burkina Faso's young captain Ibrahim Traore, a nation's hope or descent into chaos? In the turbulent landscape of West Africa, few stories are as gripping or as polarizing as that of Captain Ibrahim Traore, the 36-year-old military leader who has thrust Burkina Faso into the global spotlight. Seizing power in a dramatic coup in September 2022, Traore positioned himself as the voice of a frustrated generation, promising to dismantle corruption, expel foreign exploitation, and reclaim Burkina Faso's sovereignty. His rise was meteoric, just 8 months after supporting Lieutenant Colonel Damiba's overthrow of President Roch Kabore. Traore turned on his own ally, accusing him of failing to combat the jihadist insurgency ravaging the country. At an age when most African leaders are decades into their careers, Traore became the world's youngest sitting president, embodying a wave of disillusionment with aging elites and dysfunctional democracies. His message resonated deeply in a nation where 66% of citizens now endorse military rule, a staggering surge from 24% in 2012. But behind this populist fervor lies a darker reality: coups, conspiracies, and a security crisis spiraling out of control. Traore's boldest gambit has been his economic revolution. Declaring war on what he calls colonial-era plunder, he nationalized 2 major gold mines, expelled French mining corporations, and inaugurated a state-owned refinery to process 150 tons of gold annually, a direct challenge to Europe's dominance over Burkina Faso's resources. "Why should foreign powers profit from our sweat and blood?" he proclaimed, channeling the spirit of Thomas Sankara, the iconic 1980s revolutionary. In a move that stunned international observers, Traore rejected loans from the IMF and World Bank, vowing to free Burkina Faso from the austerity traps that have crippled neighboring economies. His reforms extended to slashing politicians' salaries, investing in agriculture, and constructing a $1 billion airport aimed at transforming Ouagadougou into a regional hub. Yet, skepticism abounds. While GDP has grown 6-fold since 1990, 64.5% of Burkinabés remain trapped in multidimensional poverty, and critics warn that Traore's rejection of foreign aid could isolate the nation, exacerbating hunger and instability. The question looms: is this economic defiance visionary self-reliance, or a reckless gamble with millions of lives? The stakes could not be higher. Since Traore's takeover, jihadist violence has exploded, with fatalities nearly doubling to 6,389 in 2024 and over 3 million people displaced, a humanitarian catastrophe unseen in Burkina Faso's history. Entire regions have fallen to ISIS and Al-Qaeda affiliates, with 40% of the country now beyond government control. Schools and hospitals lie abandoned, and the UN reports that 35% more people required humanitarian aid in 2023 than the previous year. Traore's response has been uncompromising, a controversial campaign of forced conscription, drafting thousands of civilians into the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland militia. But these volunteers often face brutal conditions on the front lines, while Russian mercenaries from the Wagner Group, reportedly numbering in the hundreds, operate in the shadows, guarding Traore's regime rather than protecting civilians. The strategy is faltering. Security analysts note a 20% spike in militant attacks since 2022, and whispers of coup plots within Traore's own ranks grow louder. In September 2024, just weeks after jihadists massacred hundreds in Bar-Salago, an assassination attempt nearly toppled his government. The junta's grip is slipping, and Traore's iron-fisted tactics, silencing journalists, threatening judges, and branding critics as traitors, have drawn global condemnation. Is this the price of stability, or the prelude to collapse? The geopolitical chessboard adds another layer of peril. Traore's expulsion of French troops and embrace of Russian mercenaries has turned Burkina Faso into a battleground for global influence. Social media floods with pro-Russian disinformation, blaming France for everything from terrorism to electricity shortages, while Wagner operatives secure Traore's hold on power, and, critics allege, facilitate the smuggling of gold to Moscow. This alliance with Russia has reshaped West Africa. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have formed the Alliance of Sahel States, a bloc of military regimes openly defying Western-backed regional bodies like ECOWAS. For Putin, it's a foothold in Africa's resource-rich Sahel. For Traoré, it's a lifeline. Yet the risks are existential. If Burkina Faso's economy grows at the projected 8% annually, 2.4 million citizens could escape poverty by 2043. But if Traore's regime crumbles, the Sahel, already a hotbed of extremism, could descend into anarchy, creating a haven for terrorists and triggering mass migration to Europe. The West watches nervously, torn between disdain for Traore's autocracy and fear of a failed state on its doorstep. As the world holds its breath, Traore's legacy hangs in the balance. To his supporters, he is a modern-day Sankara, a symbol of African agency in a neo-colonial world. To his detractors, he is a dictator in training, whose promises of reform mask a hunger for power. His ambition to rule until 2029, extending the transition to democracy by 5 years, has raised alarms, even as jihadists inch closer to the capital. Burkina Faso stands at a crossroads. Will Traore's vision of self-reliance uplift a nation, or will his gamble accelerate its ruin? The answer may determine not just the fate of 24 million Burkinabes, but the future of democracy in Africa and the global fight against extremism. One thing is certain, in a world craving heroes and villains, Ibrahim Traoré refuses to be ignored.